November 1943, on the blood-soaked shores of Tarawa. Amid the fierce fighting, a group of Japanese soldiers swarmed over the smoldering wreck of an American M3A1 Stuart light tank. They were expecting to find a crude, mass-produced machine, a testament to quantity over quality. But what they discovered inside sent a shockwave all the way to Tokyo. Instead of simple mechanics, they found sophisticated radios, advanced optics, and precision fire control systems. This wasn't just a tank, it was a technological marvel, far surpassing anything in their own arsenal. The discovery was a stunning and uncomfortable revelation for Japanese senior officers. It proved that American industry wasn't just a giant churning out endless supplies. It was a giant capable of mass-producing superior quality. This single, burned-out tank was a grim omen. A sign that the industrial might of the United States would be a decisive and perhaps unstoppable force in the war to come. In 1944, the Imperial Japanese Navy dismissed America's escort carriers as flimsy, worthless ships, until a handful of them charged headfirst at one of the largest battleship forces ever assembled. On October 25, 1944, off the coast of Samar in the Philippines, a small U.S. task unit, call-sign Taffy 3, found itself face-to-face with a nightmare. Vice Admiral Takeo Kurita's center force, a steel behemoth led by the super battleship Yamato, appeared on the horizon. Taffy 3, under Rear Admiral Clifton Sprague, had only 6 small escort carriers, 3 destroyers, and 4 destroyer escorts. They were hopelessly outgunned. What followed was one of the most audacious and desperate naval actions in history. With American landing forces on Leyte Gulf completely exposed, Taffy 3 had no choice but to fight. The destroyers charged, launching torpedoes and firing their 5-inch guns at battleships that dwarfed them. The carriers turned into the wind, launching every plane they had, some armed with nothing more than machine guns, then fled through smoke screens. For over 2 hours, this small force held back the might of the Japanese fleet in a brutal, point-blank brawl. Their sacrifice saved the invasion and became a legendary tale of courage against impossible odds. Thanks for watching. Follow for more incredible stories from history. In 1940, German anti-tank gunners watched in disbelief. Their shells were bouncing harmlessly off a British tank that looked far too small to be so tough. What was this strange, seemingly invincible machine? This was the infantry tank Mark II, better known as the Matilda II. Before the war, even some British officers had their doubts. It was slow, plodding along at only 15 miles per hour, and its main weapon was a small 2-pounder gun, which couldn't even fire high explosive shells. It seemed like a relic from a bygone era. But when German forces smashed through France in May 1940, the Matilda's reputation was forged in fire. At the Battle of Arras, a small force of Matildas charged headfirst into Rommel's 7th Panzer Division. The German 37mm anti-tank guns, nicknamed door knockers, were useless against the Matilda's thick armor. For a moment, the unstoppable German advance was halted, sending a shockwave through their high command. Dubbed the Queen of the Desert in North Africa, the Matilda proved that, in the early years of the war, heavy armor and reliability could reign supreme on the battlefield. In the brutal island battles of the Pacific, Japanese soldiers learned to listen for a specific sound from the American lines, a distinct ping. At first, they believed this metallic ring, the sound of an empty clip ejecting from an M1 Garand rifle, signaled that a U.S. Marine was out of ammo and vulnerable. They would charge, expecting an easy target, but they learned a fatal lesson. That ping didn't mean helplessness. It meant the Marine was reloading, ready to fire another 8 rounds in seconds. Adopted in 1936, the M1 Garand was the first standard-issue semi-automatic rifle for any military. Its rapid-fire capability gave American forces a massive advantage over the slower, bolt-action rifles used by their adversaries. General George S. Patton himself called it the greatest battle implement ever devised. This iconic rifle didn't just win 5 fights, it changed the very sound and speed of modern warfare. When the consolidated B-2 for Liberator First took to the skies in 1941, many thought it looked, well, a little strange. Its high-mounted, slender Davis wing seemed almost awkward, but this unique design was its secret weapon. It gave the B-24 incredible range, high speed, and the ability to carry a massive bomb load, making it one of the most versatile bombers of World War II. As the United States entered the war in the Mediterranean, the B-24 became the workhorse of the campaign against Italian forces. It flew countless missions, striking deep into enemy territory. One of its most famous and dangerous missions was Operation Tidal Wave on August 1, 1943. On that day, a massive formation of B-24s flew a daring low-level raid against the heavily defended Ploiesti oil fields in Romania. But even before this legendary raid, the B-24 was already proving its worth throughout 1942 and 1943, cementing its legacy as a true titan of the air. Thanks for watching. In 1941, as the world plunged into war, a new vehicle rolled off American production lines, It wasn't a tank or a fighter plane. It was a truck. The GMCC CKW, better known by its legendary nickname, the Doosan. At first glance, it looked unremarkable. It was unarmored, unarmed, just a simple 2.5-ton cargo truck. Early German intelligence reports even mocked its basic design and wooden cargo bed. But American logisticians saw its true potential. This wasn't just a truck. It was the backbone of a new kind of mobile warfare, a supply machine built for a global conflict. While others focused on firepower, the United States focused on logistics. Ultimately producing over 500,000 of these workhorses, the Doosan became the lifeblood of the Allied advance, delivering troops, fuel, and supplies to every front, proving that wars are won not just by fighting, but by supplying. Thanks for watching. When the Republic P-47 Thunderbolt first appeared in 1942, the Luftwaffe scoffed. They nicknamed it the Flying Fuel Drum, and looking at it, you could see why. Weighing nearly 8 tons, it was the heaviest single-engine Allied fighter of the entire war. German pilots were convinced it was too clumsy for a dogfight, a sitting duck. They certainly never imagined it could pose a threat to their armored divisions on the ground. But in 1944, as the Allies pushed into France, everything changed. The P-47 was given a new purpose: ground attack. Its massive radial engine could absorb incredible damage, and its heavy armor protected the pilot. Armed with 8.50 caliber machine guns and a payload of bombs and rockets heavier than some early bombers, the Jug, as its pilots called it, became the nightmare of the German army. It tore apart tanks, trains, and troop columns, proving that sometimes the toughest-looking fighter is exactly what you need. Japanese commanders laughed at America's new fighter, calling it awkward, clumsy, and too ugly to fly. But in less than a year, that ugly machine would shred their best pilots. The Vought F-4U Corsair first flew in 1940, and even American pilots doubted it. Its long nose blocked visibility. Its landing gear bounced dangerously on carriers. In fact, Navy officials initially refused to deploy it at sea. Japanese intelligence analyzed early photos and dismissed it as a failed design, no threat at all. But the Americans didn't give up. They sent the ugly Corsair to the Marines, who learned to master its quirks. By 1943, it was a terror in the skies. Fast, powerful, and durable. It shot down enemy planes at an astonishing rate. The Japanese pilots who once mocked it now called it whistling death. The Corsair went from a clumsy failure to one of the greatest fighters of World War II. Thanks for watching. In the sweltering heat of August 1942, the fate of the Pacific War hinged on a tiny airstrip, Henderson Field on Guadalcanal. For the Allies, it was a vital link. For Japan, it was a target that could sever supply lines and isolate Australia, tilting the war in their favor. On the night of August 21st, Colonel Kiyono Ichiki led his elite detachment of 900 soldiers ashore. Fueled by overconfidence and faulty intelligence, he believed only a token force of U.S. Marines stood in his way. His men advanced boldly towards a shallow river called the Tenaru, expecting a swift victory. But waiting for them in the darkness were battle-hardened men of the 1st Marine Division, dug in and ready. As Ichiki's soldiers charged across the sandbar, Marine machine gun crews opened fire, turning the river into a brutal killing ground. The confident assault became a desperate, one-sided slaughter. A stark lesson in the brutal cost of underestimating your enemy. Imagine being a soldier, captured and sent to an enemy country, expecting the absolute worst. This was a reality for tens of thousands of German prisoners of war starting in 1943. Shipped to camps across the United States, many fresh from the brutal Eastern Front, they braced for harsh punishment, governed only by the rules of the Geneva Convention. But what they found in places like Camp Swift and Camp Hereford in Texas was completely unexpected. Instead of starvation and cruelty, the U.S. provided conditions that were surprisingly humane. The prisoners were fed well, often better than their own comrades back in Germany. They were given access to libraries filled with books, fields for playing soccer, and even musical instruments to form orchestras and bands. They published their own newspapers and took classes. This wasn't just about humane treatment. It was a strategic effort to show these men a different way of life, hoping to send them home as ambassadors for democracy. It was a remarkable, and often overlooked, chapter of World War II. Imagine it's the Battle of Britain. RAF pilots are heroes, but their standard cotton uniforms are a death trap. If their cockpit catches fire, the fabric ignites instantly. Surgeons of the time, like Sir Archibald McKendoe, documented the horrifying result: catastrophic burns known as Hurricane Neck. This was a grim reality for far too many brave airmen, but one man was determined to change this. Enter Dr. Charles Edward Horton, a brilliant chemist with an unusual background, having worked with the British Interplanetary Society. Later, at the Air Ministry, Horton became obsessed with a single, crucial idea: creating fabric that wouldn't burst into flames. He envisioned a material that could protect pilots from the very fires meant to destroy them. His tireless work in textile research led to the development of flame-resistant materials, a breakthrough that would save countless lives, not just in the air, but for generations to come. Dr. Horton wasn't just a scientist, he was a lifesaver, weaving protection into the very fabric of courage. Thanks for watching. If you found this story inspiring, please like and subscribe for more hidden histories.